Hey everybody, today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a review. I haven't done a actual movie review in a while. I've been doing so many trailer reviews and reviews about shows lately. I haven't really done an actual movie review. Now this one's going to be really short. I've got a ton of videos coming out. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of those. Hit the notification bell, standard stuff that people plug. Make sure you do all that stuff so you don't miss anything, regardless. So I have a bunch of videos that I'm working on, but I have a movie review, an actual movie review that I get to sink my teeth into, and it's going to be about Netflix's Six Underground. Now, this movie recently came out. It was kind of hyped, kind of not hyped. There wasn't a whole lot of people talking about it, but it's Ryan Reynolds working with Michael Bay. So you kind of have, yay, Ryan Reynolds, but also Michael Bay doesn't have the best track record. So how this movie is going to play out, I was super intrigued. And of course I had to watch it, and it was a little bit of a tough movie to watch, but let's go ahead and get into the review. Now before I break down some of the things, before I break down some of my thoughts about, what I've actually thought about this movie, I'm going to try and put some positives into it. There aren't a lot, but let's try and put some positives. The visual style of Michael Bay, it's very apparent. He has his very distinct style. That worked, and that was about it. Ryan Reynolds was okay. He wasn't his likable self. He did have some snarky moments. Surprisingly, the one that I liked the most was Dave Franco's character, who, spoiler alert, dies very early in the movie. Everybody else is just sort of okay. There is another character later on in the movie that was a little bit more relatable, had a little bit more of a relation. I don't know what the best way to say it is. Like, he actually seemed like he had a soul, whereas everybody else was completely soulless in this movie. But let's go ahead and get into the actual thoughts and negatives here. So essentially this movie pretty much sucked. I watched the first couple minutes. It had good action, but it was just so choppy. I don't know if it's the editing or Michael Bay's style has just gotten that bad. I try and believe in Michael Bay. I like Transformers. I like Bad Boys. I like a couple of his other movies. Pain and Gain I absolutely love. But some of his other movies are just pure trash. He gets a lot of slack for that, and sometimes it's kind of deserved. This one is fully deserved hot garbage. There's nothing redeeming about it. It sucks. The editing is terrible. It's so choppy and quick. If you've seen some breakdowns about like Quantum of Solace's opening car chase scene, where too many quick cuts, same thing with kind of the some of the Bourne films have that same problem with like the shaky cam, a little bit too tight in terms of like shooting on the subject, and very quick editing, very choppy in terms of like the fight scenes, things like that. This is just pure that. It's terrible in terms of shooting the action. Everything else visually looks great. It's just the way that it portrays, you have no idea of the environment, you have no idea of what's going on anywhere, and it just makes no sense to try and comprehend the visual space of what's happening in terms of the action and its location just in general, where the characters are, what's their relation to the bad guys, what's the actual objective. It's all just everywhere. It's scattered everywhere in this one, and it's very hard to try and keep that straight throughout the entire movie. And then there's the storyline. Again, that makes zero sense. They're good guys, but who supposedly have to die or sort of like be killed, at least in terms of the world's like idea of this person existing, in order for them to go off and kill and fight the really bad guys doing the bad things that really nobody really knows about. So it's a good idea, but it's also kind of like the A-Team slash like other franchises. There's a bunch of different influences here, and it just does it to the worst possible ability. They have no idea what they're talking about most of the time. For example, Ryan Reynolds' character is supposed to be like this tech genius who started this group. They're filled with like a doctor, a driver, a soldier, a hitman, but they give a little bit of their background, but then they also completely disregard that stuff, and it's just like, hey, let's focus on this mission. But what their relation to that is kind of makes no sense. The bad guys that they're always going after, yes, they are doing bad things, but they're not bad in the sense that these are like dictator level world-changing bad guys. They portray them as that, but they're really not that. They're just sort of bad guys doing bad things that, yes, deserve punishment, but not to a degree that people are getting murked left and right. And speaking of people dying, this movie has zero regard for human life. Not only in regards to the characters killing bad guys, but the characters go through environments where there's crowds, hordes of people that are straight getting like hit by cars or like slung around, barely missing. In the opening scene, there's the lady with a baby that like this car barely misses her. There's like they're driving through crowds in such a manic way that they couldn't give a crap about these people. They don't care that there's human lives in that they're driving around or through these cities. All they care about is stopping this bad guy. So these characters don't feel like they have a conscience in a lot of ways. They're just purely mission driven, but then they try and play as though they do have a conscience because they have this sort of weight that I'm now kind of alone in the world, but my only family is you guys. But no, we're not family. We're just a bunch of like people who are working together to stop these bad guys. So it's very conflicted in its message that it's trying to tell. I don't think Michael Bay has messages to tell in his movies, to be quite honest with you. He just wants to have those big budget action movies, which this kind of portrays it as, but I'm definitely glad this didn't get a theatrical release, or at least enough that I would have gone and seen it, because I would have been very disappointed to have paid $12 for a movie ticket to watch this hot garbage, essentially. There's really not worth watching unless you have a Netflix account and there's access to 1,000 other movies. This movie was really hard to get through to watch. I considered stopping it several times. The first time was probably about 10 minutes in, and then I realized it's a 2-hour movie. And then I checked it about every 20 to 30 minutes how much closer I was to the end, and I was not that close. I still had an hour to go. I still had 45 minutes to go. And there was nothing that this storyline was adding to. There was nothing to watch other than just this poor action film that was just not worth anyone's time. So if you are considering watching Six Underground, save yourself the time. It's not worth it. Unless you want to watch and completely check out of a movie and just have something on in the background while you're mainly focused on something else, okay, maybe play Six Underground. But really, other than that, it's not worth watching. Not even like the first couple minutes. Like you'll probably stop within that time frame. I kept going, hoping that there would be something else, and with the ambition that this would be a great video because there had to be some kind of gem to this 2-hour movie, and there really just isn't one. It's just a big disappointment. It's kind of a blemish, another blemish on both Michael Bay's record and Ryan Reynolds' record, which he was doing pretty well for a while with Deadpool, and this is just not a good movie to watch. I don't recommend watching it. This review was probably the length of the time that it would take for you to start watching that movie and then stop it. But if you want to put yourself through that pain, by all means feel free, but I just don't recommend watching it. Really, the whole point of this video is, or at least now that we're past that hump, I have a bunch of other videos coming out. I have the finale of my watching Watchmen. I've got a couple of other movie reviews, trailer review, and a big Star Wars video. Not a review of The Rise of Skywalker, but something interesting that I hope will get people into the franchise. So make sure you guys are subscribed for that. Other than that, those are my thoughts on Six Underground. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.